Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings. I hope you're all doing well. I have had some sort of flu for the last couple of days, so that's why I've been missing. And I'm one of these people, I'm a great believer in not taking paracetamol or ibuprofen or anything, just sweat it out. So day before yesterday, that's exactly what I was doing, burning up. And then yesterday, I was just aching all over, just about feeling like I'm getting over it today. So that's why I've been missing. And also, I've been slightly depressed over the whole Harry thing, I have to say. I have glanced at the Daily Mail once or twice. Obviously, they're having a field day. Story after story after story. I mean, it looks as if this book that he's released is going to provide the tabloids with a feeding frenzy for many years to come. You know, never mind the Morton book, never mind the Panorama interview. I still remember a comment on one of the Daily Mail articles years ago when Meghan first turned up on the scene, and some very astute commenter said, if Diana was a loose cannon, then Meghan is an atomic bomb leaking radioactive waste all over the royal family and they will live to regret this. And it was one of those comments that just stuck in my mind. Interestingly enough, I've basically been laying on the sofa watching old episodes of Columbo, which I love. I love Peter Falk. Wasn't he great? It was always something that just bothered him. He just wouldn't let it go. If only a few more people had allowed things to bother them earlier on for both Meghan and Harry's sake. But unfortunately, too many people got involved and wrapped up in the idea of a fairy tale. I don't really understand why people still do that. I didn't understand it back when Diana and Charles got married, why people were so utterly convinced that by having a royal wedding in a big castle or somewhere like St Paul's Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, that the marriage would ultimately survive. Just because there's a pretty princess dress and a bit of a tiara. It's enormously naive. And most marriages and relationships struggle under the best of circumstances. I've actually been looking up, it just sort of came to my mind, Waco. Don't know if any of you guys, well, you must remember the case of Waco and the siege. And this guy had persuaded everybody he was the lamb, he was the second coming of Jesus, or naughty Jesus, and that all ended very, very badly. And the reason I've been looking up Waco, and I've been looking up other similar stories, is to really discover how people get sucked into a cult. Because that's how I felt Harry, that's the sort of place where Harry is at the moment. His logic just isn't there. And I'd like to say, the book arrives tomorrow from Amazon, and so I'm not really going to comment on any of the Daily Mail stories until I've read the book myself, because they might have taken it out of context. They may be playing with him, having fun with him. So I'd like to do the guy the justice of at least reading the book that he has written. But from glancing at the Daily Mail, I can't believe they just downright make stuff up about Meghan needing time alone with Diana's grave, or that she sang to seals, or somebody said she was apparently saying to Harry at one point, she was passing messages on to him from Diana, sort of like a medium, saying, Diana's told me how proud she is of you, clever, good boy. I can't believe that's actually in the book. It arrives tomorrow and I will read it as fast as I can, and if that sort of stuff is in the book, I'm hoping it's something's been lost in translation, actually. But I will read the book, because this is an insight into what Harry's thinking. Unless, of course, Harry signed off on a different copy of the book, and behind his back, this one got released by Penguin maybe. So, in which case you'd expect him to come forward and say, I didn't write any of that. That's not the book that I released, and I'm suing Penguin, which he hasn't done so far. But it is looking a bit like a cult at the moment. From the glimpses I've seen, he seems to think Meghan is magical. That Meghan is somehow his mother, reincarnated, which is all really odd on lots of levels. So I will read that, but then I look at Omid Scobie, and he has tweeted a link to an article in the Independent newspaper. I've literally just seen this, because I'd seen before, Omid apparently had said, I think on Radio 4, that he expects Meghan and Harry to take a back seat for the rest of the year and not say anything else, and, you know, what more is there to say? And I personally translate that as Omid, in a very polite way, saying to them, oversharing, time to stop talking. You know, he's trying to be a friend, I think. I don't know. With friends like that, I'm not sure they need any enemies. Or he somehow senses something is very wrong. And I think most people would have to be quite daft in the head not to sense that something is very, very wrong. Something is terribly wrong, actually. I watched, it sounds like I've been watching nothing but I promise you I haven't. I've just been sweating my nuts off over this flu. But I watched, you have a show in the UK, Good Morning Britain. And Susanna Reid seemed to be asking an American correspondent, the question she actually asked was, how has Harry's interviews gone down with the American audience in comparison to the Oprah revelations? Because they claimed racism on Oprah, and apparently now he's backtracking and saying no. But this guy she asked the question, he didn't answer that question at all. He said, I've spoken to the Sussex camp and Harry's family still haven't got in touch with him. And I thought, that's not what Susanna asked. Why don't you answer the question? How is that relevant? Have you been told, have you been pumped to say, is this all about attention seeking from his family? How does anybody cope if they have a loved one who has joined a cult or is under the influence of something that will not convince them otherwise? As an extreme example of Waco, the guy who was running the camp had told them all to prepare, they were going to be attacked. And so, of course, when the, alcohol, tobacco and firearms came and attacked them, it just reinforced their belief, I suppose. And I hear a lot of that, and Harry's just not making any sense. He's not saying anything logical. I think his attacks on Camilla, and I have not always been a fan of Camilla, but she has won me over by just being stoic. And honestly, Harry, if you're watching this, having not been a particular fan of Camilla, I've got to say, I haven't really seen anything in the press or the newspaper that I would consider a PR campaign to lift her image. I really don't. I haven't seen anything like that in years and years. Perhaps years ago, before Charles and Camilla got married, but not since then. I don't know what you're thinking. The lady's just kept her head down, actually, and minded her business. So I think that's really quite nasty. And I'd also say to Harry, if he has put those things in the book, yes, he has every right to tell his story, but does he equally have the right to just tear people's lives apart? If you look back through some of my videos of my life experiences, I've met some not very nice people in my time, but I always change the name. Or I try and throw it in another direction to mislead so no one can identify the actual people. Because I've got the right to tell my experiences, but I don't have the right to just downright destroy somebody's life. Harry, that's not a good thing. Your mother wouldn't like that. She wouldn't like that at all. So anyway, I'm going to be offline for a bit more, I think. I am getting over this flu. The book will turn up tomorrow, and then I will spend some time reading it. If I find it a bit hard going, I might just pop back on YouTube for a chat and see what you guys have been up to. I haven't even looked at my email. I'm dreading it. I've literally been pretty much offline for the last 48 hours, but I will get onto that and check up with what all you've all been up to. In the meantime, do any of you think there could be something a little bit culty or of that nature going on with Meghan and Harry? I have heard theories that people think that Meghan was always some sort of stool pigeon. I don't believe that. I don't think things are that organised. I think it's just sort of worked out that way. And I do, again, emphasise that I fear if the situation gets much more out of control, things could turn exceptionally nasty for both Harry and Meghan, and especially their two children. So, thoughts, opinions, as always, in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on this one. And go have a look at Omid's Twitter feed. It's a very interesting article in the Independent. See you later.